You can follow me on any of the listed social media, and you can read my manga over on Pixiv. If you'd like to support me, then please consider subbing to my Patreon. Thank you. Because I was planning on this being like a 5-part video, just one step at a time, and it's turned into like 8. So I'm hoping to get it done in one go without needing to stop or anything like that, but who knows, we will see. I did figure out what I want the background to be, though. We're going to have her sitting in some of those underground ruins that you can find in Sumeru. So we'll have her in kind of an underground ruin where the sand is still kind of like swallowing up everything. So, and I'm thinking we'll put her claymore beside her as well. So there'll be some details because the overall the floor of the like ruins and the sand is going to be pretty simple. So I figured instead of trying to add in some like rocks or like some tufts of like dune grass or whatever, we'll just add her claymore as like the detail. So either way, I'm just going to kind of sketch out what I want this to look like. So right now I'm just trying to map out where I want like the sand, so something like that, and then we'll have some big ol' rock pieces here for the floor, like so. And we'll definitely want to make these almost like little tiny crevices. These are big ol' chunks of stone sitting next to each other, so we don't want to make them like seamless. I'll even make some of them kind of chipped and worn down in some areas. Something like that. But yeah, we don't want to make our background so loud that it kind of takes away from Dehya herself. So we're just trying to strike that balance of not just having like a blank, boring background, but we also don't want to take away from Dehya. We'll add some little tufts of grass here in between some of these rocks. Although we're not going to make this part here super ultra detailed right now because we're going to have her claymore there. And again, similar to the construction lines for your character, I'm just kind of sketching stuff in, some little shapes in that we'll figure out later, adding in our little tiny details. Add a split in this rock. Something like that. So I think what we'll do is we'll sketch in the claymore, because then once we have that kind of figured out, then we can try to look for areas where maybe it'd be worth adding some details, or if that would be enough, because I definitely want to add in some like background, like a rock wall here, just to see that, you know, we're in like a cave. Just adding in some little stones and stuff. Don't want to make it too crowded and messy, but I guess we could even add in those little collectible items that you can find in here, those little like egg things. I don't remember what they're called. And I'm also not looking up a reference for them, so I don't even know if I should be adding these. The more I'm thinking about this, I think maybe winging this might get the dedicated Genshin fan base angry at me for not making these little pupa things correctly, but oh well. We're just gonna go for it, because why not? It's been so long since I've had to collect this material, so I just have a vague memory of what it looks like, or even what it's called. Okay, so I'll do that. Rocks. And again, I'm trying to give the background, you know, some life and some character. It's gotta be able to depict properly that, you know, she's in a cave. I'm gonna add some parts where like the sand's kind of bunched up too. But I also I don't want to make it so detailed and so loud that it kind of just takes away from Dehya herself, you know. So it's a fine line. Just having some areas where the sand kind of comes up in little waves, like so. And then now for the claymore, which we're not going to have the whole thing visible, but we'll just have it like sitting like this beside her. Then figure out my center line for it. Probably flip this a little bit just so I can get to a more advantageous angle for these lines. Okay, so we've got this bright spot coming like this, and it kind of comes out like so. And I guess from this angle, that's pretty much the only detail. So I guess I was kind of thinking, I was like, man, this might be add some time onto our background, but it's pretty simple. So yeah, have that there. I think I will make it larger though, so I want it to be quite big. There we go. Okay, and then I guess just some sand texture back here, which probably, I'm not sure if we might add some texture portions with like the line art, but for the most part, we'll probably just do that when we render the background here. Okay, but we pretty much got everything we want, so at this point now, just gonna add the construction lines here into their own little folder, and we'll do the line art. So depending on how detailed the background is, it can sometimes be pretty quick to get done. Especially it's like something like this, it's not super ultra detailed, so it really, in theory, I should be able to get this done in one video here, but we'll see. I thought I could do that for every part up until the second video I shot for this, so who knows. But we'll add this, so I'm going to use super fine lines for this because it looks like this part kind of glows, so I just need something to kind of contain my little base color that I feel like drawing in there. But then after that, it can just do its own thing. And then we'll even use our little rulers like this to get the exact sort of angular shape that we want. And then same with over here. Let's do this. It kind of comes down like so. There we go. We'll do these on their own layer though, just in case. And again, just super light. Not really worried about line weight here. I'm just worried about keeping my line super thin, because all of this is going to glow. So it's like you could even make a case for not even using hard lines and just detailing this through base colors, but for me, I'm just going to use super fine lines here. So then when we add the glow layers and stuff, it'll kind of just swallow the lines a bit more easily. There you go. But to each their own. It's not really the end of the world, whatever you choose to do. Oh yeah, those are gonna get erased anyways. For a second there, I was like, great, I just ruined that line, but I'm gonna have to erase that anyways, so it's not really a big deal, because these are gonna connect like so. There we go. And then, yeah, I guess we should actually, as annoying as it is, because now we're just getting super messy over here with layers, I think I need to make that on its own little layer here, because the stone line art is going to kind of be swallowed by the sand. So we want to make sure that claymore won't be, so I'm just going to make it on top of everything. And then for these stones here, we will go ahead and do this. So this stone's kind of chipped away. So here I do want to have some decent enough line weight. And just kind of following along our little sketch lines here. It can be, again, it can be tough. Similar like when we went over like drawing out her thighs and stuff, when there's so much little like bubbles and stuff because of all of her pelts. It can make it pretty difficult to get the overall direction exactly what you need. And when you're doing stuff like this, it ends up being a little bit similar, just because these blocks need to all be going the same way, and so even though there's chunks out of some of them, they can't just be vastly different, you know? They've got to still move in the same direction. Then we'll erase this part a little bit, connect it like so. There we go. I think we'll add just a regular little seam here. And yeah, I like starting with my character before I worry about a background, just because then I'm not trying to fit them into a background. I'm trying to make a background work around them. Now obviously if I have like an important background, like maybe they're sitting on a bench, you know, like they're doing something, interacting with it, like truly, then in the original construction lines I'll sketch in the background as well. But for a lot of these fan arts, I just kind of make the background after the fact. And you could always add it in along with them. It's not really the end of the world. But it's just, for me, I kind of like making sure the character's the way I want, and then I'll just fit the background around them. Unless, again, if they're like interacting with something in particular, then I'll add in that detail. Like my fan art of Mavwika, where she's like sitting in her throne. So I sketched that part at least. Do that. And then grab this. And plus too, it's like, since the character's here, it's like everything right beneath her is just not going to be visible. So the nice thing is too, is that if you're doing it this way, then I'm not going to waste a bunch of time rendering and drawing details that are just going to be covered by Dehya, you know. So this will save some time in the long run as well. Then I'm going to overshoot my line where the sand kind of swallows it. I'll erase this little portion here. But I'll do that because then when I'm detailing out the sand and kind of blending it in and stuff, I will have plenty of room to work with. Because if I cut off that line right where the sand swallows it, then it's just going to make it a bit more challenging than really necessary to make the sand swallow it up. It'll give me a lot more space to work with. So it just gives a lot more space to have like some just definitive hard sand, but then be able to add in some like air brushes where maybe there's just some light sand blown over it. So, and for like these little cracks and stuff, I'm just trying to make like interesting little shapes out of it. I don't want to have it like too uniform, but I also don't want it to be like looking just like a random lightning bolt or something. So probably call that part good there. I mean, I guess you could make it look like lightning and it'd be fine, but I want this little slot here to be a relatively large crack, but I don't want it to be anything extreme. Alright, and then just to help myself, I'm going to, on the layer of the blocks, map this out. So again, we can see here's my sand line right there. And then I'm going to make the block line over here. So I'm not going to render the blocks, obviously, before I get the sand figured out. But for now, when I do the base colors of the blocks and get them added in, when the sand goes over top of it, I'll have just a ton of space to work with right there. So we'll do that. And then I'll even connect this here underneath of Dehya's hand, so that way it's out of the way, but then I can use my little paint bucket there and it's not going to spill into the rest of it. So I'll do that. Let's see. Then probably for a lot of these rocks and stuff, I'm just going to put those in as base colors, keep them a little bit softer. And since they're more in the background and further away from us, I don't really feel a need to like draw it out with hard lines. So, and if I need to help separate it out a little bit, then I can just add in some hard lines after the fact. So I think what I will do is I will take our little construction line layer. I'm going to move it on top of everything, because then what I can do is when we get to the actual like sand and stone portion, I can go ahead and see exactly what I mapped out for it. So before I do these rocks, I will hide all of that, and I will do the base colors for the sword, which again, it's got a lot of glowing portions to it. So I'm just gonna give it this kind of dark black color, and then in the rendering we'll brighten it up as we move up closer, so it kind of looks like it's got a gradient. I think it probably doesn't need to be quite so dark though. We'll lighten it just a touch, make it a little bit more brown. There we go. That's what I want. So we'll do that, and then this middle portion here is a pretty bright yellow. Thank you, paint bucket. So we'll do that, and a lot of this detail sword is going to be done in the rendering, so it looks boring right now, but should, in theory, look a lot better once we actually render it. So I'll do that, and now beneath that, add in these stones. So the stones in Sumeru kind of like a light grayish color. So I'll probably make these a little bit darker just to fit our overall tone. Maybe not that dark. Something like that. And then just getting all of these top layer blocks colored. Then I will go ahead and do the pieces where they kind of broke away. And I can do the rims of it too here. It's not a big deal. So I kind of need to blend these anyways. So do that. And then the space between them, make it even darker. Maybe even darker than that. Just so it really stands out as being a gap. Like that. And then, oops, for this sort of crag here, I need to make it the same color as the other cracks for the broken blocks. Do this. Do this, and there'll be some like some little details we can add in with our hard lines now. So come up on their own little separate layer, grab this, make my pen really small. Let's add in some little details here. Just some little marks. This kind of helps some parts of the rocks look a little more rigid, I feel. So we don't need to go overboard with it. Definitely if you're doing this as like in a traditional style where everything's just kind of gradients of like grays and stuff and whites and stuff, then using a bit more cross hatching here can be helpful to really help get some of that rigidness there. But we're going to do a lot of our detailing through the rendering, so this will help with some of it, but we're not gonna lean into it to get our detail here. But just having some little interesting parts to look at should be fine, and the rest of our detail will be done through rendering. So I think I'll add just a little bit right there, a little bit right here. And like I said, I like adding that after the fact just so then I don't go overboard, because it's easier if everything's like kind of grayed out. Just be like, well, I'll just keep adding this because it adds detail. But when you got a little base color going, it's a little bit easier for me to hold myself back. So now we'll activate that, and then in another folder above the rocks we will add our sand. So for now we're just going to add in this, and it doesn't have to be perfect. We will change it as we go. I'm just trying to figure out a good sand color here. I like the direction this is headed, because I don't want it to like blend in with like Dehya. And we could always add a little like a white hue behind Dehya to make her really pop out, and I might consider doing that, but for right now I think I like that. And then what I'll do is I'll come in here and just kind of do something like this, because we'll have some sections here that are a bit of a firmer, more definitive, this is where the sand stops, but then we'll have some areas that we airbrush so it looks more like the sand is really like blending into the rocks. So it should break up our lines nicely and make it a little bit more interesting to look at and a little bit more realistic. Because it won't look like the sand's just magically stopping out of nowhere, you know. It'll have some parts and pieces that kind of come together. We'll even add some sections here where the sand's kind of pouring into these crags. Okay, something like that. There we go. And then the background wall here, we'll use a couple of different colors here. So we'll use a dark stone for this rock here. Same with this. And then under it, we'll use a lighter color for this right here. Then above both of those, grab a more saturated color for this rock. So right now it's just trying to find some different colors and shades and hues so that way everything's not like the exact same. I'm just making little rock shapes here. Like so. And then over that rock I'll have like a darker color for this one. There we go. Something like that. Have a little rock here over this one, but then beneath those layers there, or actually I could put this layer right here, have a rock coming out like this. So I don't really need a rock right there, but I will just fill this in a little bit. There we go. And then let's see here. So I think I'll add in a lighter colored rock. Right here. And then a large rock here that kind of flattens itself out, like so. There we go. Then I'll come back to this layer here and just blend this section in a little bit nicer. There we go. Then right here, I'll add in these little pupa things. I don't even remember what they're called, but oops, I think they're like larva or pupa or something. It's just some sort of collectible you need to ascend some of the characters. So I'll put that in like that. Let's see, that'd be over top. So then I want a layer behind this rock, like that. And then on the same layer, I can add in one more, like that. Okay, so I want it above that rock. So I'm just gonna quick copy that, delete that, and then move the copy beneath. There we go. And then right above them we have these things, which are quite gray and a lot lighter, if I remember right. And we'll have them kind of pointed up, and then they kind of are circular at the bottom. And we'll make the shape a little bit better in a second. Oops. Now we got to go back to these layers, wherever they are. They're gone. Okay, there we go. Do the same here. That's what I thought. I knew this one was on a different layer for some reason, but it is what it is. There we go. Then I will make this shape a little better. It didn't really turn out the way I wanted. Okay, and then after that, let me just figure out, so these rocks. So now I will add in some of our sand detail. It's going to be above some of these rocks. So right behind this one, we'll add in a little bit of a sand mound here. And then I think it'll have a little bit more of a sand mound here as well. Kind of spilling over. That one's fine. And I have some sand mound right here. Okay, and then I think then above everything, we'll just add some little ones just like this. There. So now should be able to, I guess we do have some more grasses to add. Okay, let's see. I think just adding them here at the top of this background layer should be fine. Well, I guess this would also cover up the claymore, so I think we'll just, in their own folder, here at the top, have our grass layers. And most of these I just downloaded off the internet, so you can go looking up for, you know, free brushes if you want. I did make some my own, on my own, but for this one I think we're just going to use some of this some of this dune grass that I've got here. We'll add in this. It's kind of all tilted in a weird direction here. It's kind of not helpful. So we're gonna have to start over, I guess. Make this a bit bigger though. I think we'll just start over here and figure out what direction I'm supposed to be making these. So for this one though, I am going to actually put it over top of everything. Make it a little tiny bit transparent so you can still see her hand beneath it. And then take a different grass texture here. For this one. Have some dark ones and some light ones. There we go. And then I can come in with my eraser. Like this. Just making sure that's not coming over this other block because it needs to be between the two. That's fine up there. There we go. And then should be able to add just some little grass patches in the background here. Don't want a ton because this is a desert, but even a desert's gonna have some little tufts every now and then. So do that. I'm gonna use a smaller brush here though, because these are getting further away from us. They don't need to be quite as big. Just add some areas here where the grass is kind of over this stuff. Don't want to overdo this though, so don't need much more than this. But we'll just add a couple different textures here, or colors. Just so that way it's kind of broken up. It's not just the same thing over and over in these little areas. There we go. And then can do the same here. Except we'll grab a different texture. Get a little bit brighter here. Add some pops. There we go. Okay. I guess just a little bit right here. Okay. So now I will oh yeah, okay. There we go. I was gonna say, I was like, where's my construction line layer? It was just gone. Okay, so we'll do this. Okay, the grass is fine. This can move back down to the bottom of this folder. We've got our crags. We've got the sand here. We've got the sword. We've got this. So we'll probably end up rendering the sword first. However, we are already at pretty much 40 minutes, which again, this project just, every step is taking a lot longer than I thought it was. So I think, yet again, we're going to have to just cut this off here, and we'll just render it for its own part of the video. So hopefully, again, this is helpful for you, just kind of seeing what I'm doing, what I'm thinking about when I'm constructing a background, thinking of base colors. You can use more hard lines if you want, not a big deal in the background. Obviously it looks very basic and plain right now, but once we render it, it should really add a lot of character, a lot of detail, and make it look a bit more natural. So for right now, we'll call it good here, and in the next part we will get to rendering the background. So see you then.